Hello, everyone. My name is Julianne Meyer, and I am the host of Own Your Wellness. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited about today's guest. He is joining us from across the pond. And man, he's got one of the best teams I've had the pleasure of working with to get this and make this interview happen. So let's just bring him on. I am so excited. Raj Khedun, welcome to the show. Hello, hello.
Hi, Julie. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for the wonderful opening there. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually when I have people that are, so far away, there's always like all these glitches and things. So I'm just really excited that we're able to do this with basically no problem. So
Absolutely. Yeah. How's the weather over there in California?
Oh my goodness, so hot.
Good.
Hotter than usual, which I really wouldn't mind too much because I have a pool, but my dog, and every time I go to walk him outside, I have to be careful of his paws. So that's the problem. But anyway, enough about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I would love for us to start out with you sharing a bit about yourself and your own wellness journey.
Absolutely. So, I've been in, various careers in terms of my background. I've been in logistics. I've been a relationships coach for 12 years, specifically with women. So some people might have heard of Get the Guy. It's quite a well-known outfit that helps women develop confidence so they can be more successful in their dating lives. Mm-hmm. So there's having dealt with so many women for so many years, I kind of know pretty much how to deal with almost any relationship scenario. No matter how challenging it is, no matter how a depressed woman might seem, mm-hmm. Or a guy, but mostly I've been probably 95% dealing with women, and this. Once you know what to look for and you know what questions to ask, you can pretty much solve any relationship issue. But it takes confidence. It takes a kind of a real deep empathy, putting yourself in the other person's shoes and feeling that the depth of their emotion, and so I constantly get women asking me all kinds of questions all day, all night, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, via email, and so on. And it's interesting because when you're a coach, you see the same patterns repeat again and again.
Yes.
That's what happens when you specialize in something. But the other people, they don't know that.
Of course not. And they think they're the only one.
Exactly that. So I think in terms of teaching some of these things, there's a crossover between mindset, relationships, mm-hmm. Your life timeline in terms of what you see yourself doing in the next 5, 10, 15 years. That all very much plays into the kind of people you're associating with. Mm-hmm. So if you can paint a bigger gestalt, for want of a better word, a picture of what a person's life should look like, mm-hmm. You can build the elements in and kind of help rewrite their script so that they can fulfill that more ideal kind of life.
That sounds beautiful. And I got to give you props on the word because you can't work that one into too many conversations. So wordsmith, love it. Something that you brought up that I just feel compelled to mention or maybe dig a little bit deeper is the idea of, these patterns. And it can feel so lonely thinking that you're the only one. And so would you say that that's one of the best benefits of working with a coach, or, what are some,
Yeah, that's such a great question. That's such a great question because especially in this day and age, with the mindsets that we're given in school, everyone can tend to be very sort of to themselves or quite, individualistic. Mm-hmm. So they sometimes find it difficult to connect with others. Because that's not necessarily taught in school.
Yeah.
It's not, especially the kind of Western, America, UK, Europe. It's like, you're your own boss and you don't necessarily have to look out for others, So that can sometimes play into a lot of relationship problems.
Oh, that's fascinating. Especially with COVID too, and being locked down, that just kind of reinforced a lot of that separateness of people. And I gotta tell you, like for me personally, like getting back out there and like even networking, it was odd.
Yeah.
It's different when like on the computer, it's
Yeah. You have to kind of exercise those muscles again, get back out there.
exactly. So what are
Yeah.
some common threads do you see that, people deal with?
In terms of relationships
Yeah.
with women and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's it's fascinating. I find this topic amazing. It's like, I've been doing this for 12 years, and I've done a lot more sort of reading into psychology, and then transpersonal psychology, and then how yoga and meditation affects the whole person.
Hmm.
And having done that for so many years, I think that there's a lot of things that could be, done, or women could be helped with just
Hmm.
knowing things. So yeah, there's a sorry. What was your point again on your
That's
question?
quite
Sorry.
all right. No, I was just wondering because you're saying that you notice patterns, and
Yeah.
I was just wondering what's maybe the biggest one that everybody seems to feel alone about, but it seems like it's a common thread.
Yes. Yeah. I think not sometimes not being able to discuss certain things that are really difficult.
Mhm.
Say you've grown up with some emotional trauma, you think that you're not allowed to talk about it. You think that you
Mhm.
can't. There's no one available to speak to. But when you get in touch with a coach or a mentor or someone who knows more than you do,
Mhm.
you'll find that actually it doesn't matter. You can be free to ask questions, and get solid answers and practical steps. So, for example, a theme that I see a lot is when women tend to keep problems to themselves, and they bottle it up for years. Yeah, they bottle up. They think I'm the only one who has this. No one else has it. It's just mine.
Mhm.
And they lock it in the vault, and they never share it with anyone. You know, and that's a common theme. That's a common thing I see again and
Yeah.
again.
I've been guilty.
Yeah, and physiologically, it affects your health.
It
You
does.
know,
We keep our issues in our tissues, as they say.
I use that line as well. Actually, that's
I love it. I think I got
yeah,
it from what book was that? I can't even remember the name of it, but anyway,
yeah.
I would love for you to explain to us what Keep Fit Kingdom is.
Yeah. So Keep the Kingdom, it was born out of growing up in the Western world, being subject to the usual sciences that we all go through in school in America and the UK and Europe. There's a certain fixed modality about it, and it doesn't feel like you connect with it enough.
Hmm.
It's like objective facts scientifically, but then again, you're like, well, how does that relate to me?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? How can I? Okay, this information in this book sounds great. It sounds very, you know, technical and scientific. But what does that mean for me? How can I benefit? There's a kind of disconnect between what's in the book and how a person can, relate that to themselves and benefit in their own life. So, Keep Fit Kingdom is really about the motivating step. So, you see a healthy body on Instagram. You see
Hmm.
an amazing physique in a book, anatomy book, or whatever, and you're thinking, well, that's all great, but how can I benefit from it, right?
Exactly.
So what Keep Fit Kingdom does, they look to encourage people to be motivated to make a change, because no one's going to change anything unless they're first motivated to change something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
So
that's what it's all about. Yeah.
yeah, no. So what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're still working in relationships. You're just working with people in their relationships with themselves.
Yeah. Why not?
Exactly. I mean, because you can't give away something you don't have anyway. So
Absolutely.
and I love the idea of, yeah, that's all fine and dandy in that book because seriously. And then the other thing too about science is it's true until it isn't.
That's
Like the
right.
world is flat. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Jupiter's a planet. Is it?
Exactly.
So you just, it's true until it isn't. So some of that stuff, it's like, huh, that might be true right now, but is it really? I mean, that's what goes through my mind when I.
Exactly, exactly. And I think a lot of, when you read some tips in the local or the national press about a
Mhm.
particular fruit, for example, I
Yeah.
remember reading back in a few years back that grapefruit was the best fruit ever, and everybody's got to eat grapefruit. Right, next week they say, well, grapefruit could cause cancer, and so you're thinking, well, if you keep getting all these different opinions, different conflicting uh, pieces of narrative, how on earth are you ever going to make a right choice for yourself? You know?
Exactly. Exactly. Like coffee's good for you, it isn't. Eggs, good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. I mean, there's just so much information out there. And now I love that idea. That's actually something that I preach about because, what's good for one person isn't necessarily good for another anyway.
That's right.
you know?
Absolutely.
Like I
Yeah.
know a lot of people supposedly brown rice is better for you than white, but not if you have an allergy to it or a sensitivity, then it's not so good for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think because we've got a really good team. We've got over 20 journalists, and a lot of them very specialized in veganism, in muscle building, in supplementation,
Mhm.
in more holistic health. So we've got specialists in each of these areas. And what you find is that if they email in to us, or they Facebook us, or private DM on Twitter, whatever, they ask questions, and we just ask the right questions to find out what that person needs. So we
Mm.
tailor and sort of make it more bespoke for that individual by
You know,
asking.
yeah,
Yeah.
you've mentioned this a couple times, and I really want to focus on this for a moment, and that is about asking good questions or the right questions, because a lot of us, I had this conversation privately with somebody the other day, and it was, we're asking ourselves things like, why is this always happening to me? Or why can't I, blah, 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 and it's just like, it's
Right.
not a very helpful question. You're not going to get a good answer from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's fantastic. I mean, you know, that the scope of these kind of conversations can be incredible. And I know you've had a lot of really, forward-thinking evolutionists or revolutionists, if you like, on your podcast, on your TV channel, and so on. And I think there's it's all about pinpointing what you want.
Hmm.
So for example, if you say, this always happens to me, this always happens to me, and you keep on repeating that, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It really does. It
Yeah,
totally does. And then it's kind of like you're waiting for it to happen and you can't even see other options that are available because you're just expecting something.
that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. But the
So
science, yeah, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Yeah. So the science of it is such an intriguing point. I said just why I just wanted to chime in with
Hmm.
this bit. Um, the This stuff isn't taught in school, right? And this is a big issue because, say, for example, you feel victimized, right?
Mhm.
Something bad happened, and you keep affirming that with energy and emotion, right? It's that energy and emotion which codes your entire thought matrix. And then it becomes part of your own coding for yourself.
Mhm.
And when something similar happens, you come back with the same reaction again and again.
Automatically.
Automatically becomes
Mhm.
habitual, like second nature, right? So those patterns become as you're familiar with the concept of compounding over time,
Yeah.
right? Everybody knows. So as James Clear says in his book, it's a fantastic book, Atomic Habits. He
Yes.
says, if you have the wrong habits, time will be your enemy.
Hmm.
Because over time, you compound those habits, and they'll reap, terrible results for yourself. But if on the other hand, you make positive habits, your reality, and you enforce those,
Hmm.
time becomes your best friend.
Exactly. It's compounding in the correct direction.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. And people don't realize that as they age, every 5 years, 10 years, 15 years,
Mhm.
imperceptibly, day by day, people are coding their own energy and emotion to give themselves their own reality blueprint.
Exactly. Something that I was taught a long time ago, and it's really lately because I think I had COVID. I don't know for sure. I tested negative, but was one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if I believe the test result because it's not always accurate. But
Right.
I have this overwhelming feeling of tiredness. And so instead of saying I am tired, I started saying I'm feeling tired right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
instead of like owning it and making it an I am statement. I
Good.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want to become that thing that you want to pass through. Um, so I have a question for you, and I've never really asked this before. But so me being in, health and wellness and coaching and stuff, if there's one tip that I could give to just about anybody that would
Yeah.
be an overall, this would be good for you is drink more water.
Right.
That would be
Yeah.
like my tip. What would
Yeah.
be one of yours?
Yeah. Water, absolutely essential. I mean, I've done experiments a bit more involved and in depth because I'm really interested in human potential,
Mm.
not just from the angle of helping women with their relationship problems or helping men with their relationship problems,
Mhm.
but also understanding, um, you know, how do we achieve peak performance? How do we achieve the best of ourselves to become the best version of ourselves?
Mhm.
So one tip, and it's actually in a study that we've created around breathing. So it's a 10-minute per day exercise that anyone can do. And we've been developing this for past 12 to 18 months. And your readers and your listeners can viewers can try the experiment out for themselves for completely free via Keep Picking Them. Absolutely fine to do that. Yeah, check it out. But what we found, and to answer your question there, Julie, is that the breathing mechanism is so incredibly fundamental
Mhm.
to everything,
Yeah.
right? And why, I have these great debates with friends, with colleagues, with other fitness professionals, coaches. Why is breathing not taught in school?
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't take long and it has a profound effect on your body, your mind, your emotions, your entire energy flow,
Mhm.
right? Your level of concentration increases, your level of being able to interact productively with others increases.
Mhm.
So the one thing we would recommend, and certainly I would recommend, is doing a 5 minute to 10 minute breathing exercise every day.
Does it matter what time of day or just do it every day?
Um, I would say upon waking up.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Start your day out with
Absolutely.
a win.
With a win. Absolutely. So we recommend. Are you familiar with some of the yoga postures?
Yes.
Yes. So Malasana is like a low squat
Mhm.
pose. So we recommend after you wake up, you refresh yourself and use the restroom and everything. You might have a glass of water, and then you can go into a low squat pose,
Mhm.
Malasana, as they call it in Sanskrit, and then do alternate nostril breathing. Right?
Yes,
For
I love that.
yeah, 10 minutes straight, and you will
Uh-huh.
feel very calm, very balanced, poised, and connected to yourself on several levels at once.
Now, I'm so glad that you talked about the alternate nostril breathing. That's something that I teach as well, because I mean, if you do any sort of scientific research about it, it's pretty impressive. And then even, like you said, with yoga and all, oh my gosh, it's just for all of you science nerds out there,
Yeah,
it's fun.
it is.
No, I
Absolutely.
love that. I love that idea too. Um, you know, I just want to go back to like the idea of um, the fact that you're a man and that you're helping women. And, a lot of women, I think it might be like 50-50, where some are like, you don't know because you're a man. And the other ones would be like, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Such a
um, do you just find that women, and this is where I'm going with the question, do you just find, though, that women in general feel more free to ask for help than maybe men do?
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. I mean, one of the reasons why I think I've been, coaching more women than men, even though I love coaching guys as well, because,
Yeah.
a human being is a human being, right? So,
Hmm.
and my whole kind of interest, and you could almost call it, an obsession, is understanding human potential.
Love that.
So yeah, that's why human beings can never be boring for me, because I'm always finding out, what do you do for your health? What do you do for your mind? What do you do for your relationships? What do you do
Hmm.
for work? What's your purpose in life? What's your career? I love to understand how a person perceives those things. So I think, in terms of relationships, yeah, you're right. I mean, women, they do feel like they can talk to people a bit more about it. Men seem to, especially in the last 10 years, they still had that kind of alpha male thing where, it's a problem, it's emotion, that's emotion, it's nothing. I stick it under the carpet. I'm a man, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I'm a man. I can take care of this. I'm a man.
yeah, exactly. But when it
Yeah.
comes to the finer sentiments of, interacting with women and the
Hmm.
finer emotions, many men, they can't read between the signals. They can't read between the lines.
And
So
I think that's fascinating too, because women think they're being so obvious and men don't pick up on it. And then they're like, it's almost like, well, why can't you read my mind?
such a great point. I think
you know,
one of the really practical points on this subject is that if a man asks a woman, what is it that you want?
yeah.
What actually are you looking for?
Hmm.
Tell me that. And a lot of women say, oh, they'll start looking, oh, you shouldn't be asking me that. You should be reading my mind, isn't it? And I said, no, no, no. Just tell me, what do you want? Let's sit down. Let's have a cup of green tea. Yeah. Or
it's funny too. I think, speaking from my own experience, I think it's a place of fear where you don't want to scare somebody away without realizing that, you don't have to be perfect. Like, that's not the point. Perfect is boring anyway. I'll never
exactly.
forget, my boyfriend and I, it was one of our first dates, and he asked me if I wanted to have kids.
Hmm.
And I was like, no. I was just very, and I was nervous to say it, but I just basically was like, oh, hell no. And not knowing, what he was going to say. And he was like, all right, good, me either. I was like, it could have been a deal breaker. What I wanted to say to like soften the blow would be like, well, maybe. I'm
Someday,
open. Not
yeah,
really, though.
yeah,
So I think a lot of people, feel that way too, where it's like, just speak your truth is not as easy as it seems. It's vulnerable. It's very vulnerable, I think.
it can be, and I think a lot of this, we're very excited with the kind of new interest in new perspectives and new ways of doing things. I
Hmm.
mean, we have several interns who work at Keep Fit Kingdom from different universities from around the world.
Mm.
And we love talking to them because they tell us, at the time of COVID, everything went online, right?
Exactly.
All the campuses shut down, bar maybe one or two were kind of part-time opening, but majority of them shut down, and the students were still paying the full fees for doing online learning.
Yeah.
So they didn't interact with their colleagues, they didn't interact with their teachers. Everything
Mhm.
was via Zoom call, video chat, Skype, whatever. And they felt like things are going to change after things go back to normal.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel like it's going to be 100% as it was before.
No.
Yeah, there's going to be some major fundamental shifts. And I think for some people who are very, who are still haven't worked on their own mind, they haven't really thought about it. But those who have started thinking, saying, well, hang on, if I'm paying full tuition fees, where I'm not even interacting with the students or getting the full experience with the whole curriculum and everything,
Mhm.
well, couldn't I do things better online then? Couldn't I turn my hand to things that I really want to do and
Mhm.
do it online anyway? Because the school is online. What can't be done online now these days?
Exactly. No, that is an amazing point, and it's something that I've thought about too. It's like now my coaching practice is opened up, dramatically because it doesn't have to be Southern California.
Exactly. Exactly.
Within like a 10-mile radius.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that.
So yeah. So I think the whole COVID situation has helped people, who are more sort of self-aware, to
Mhm.
start thinking out different opportunities for themselves and realizing that the school system isn't necessarily the be all and end all of education.
Exactly.
You know? So just tying that back to your point, where women are reluctant to talk about issues or be open about their
Mhm.
position or what they want and their desires in life. I think if more sort of self-esteem and confidence was taught in school, I
Mhm.
think they would be more equipped to be able to have those conversations in the real world with boyfriends or with fathers or with cousins or whoever, family,
Yeah.
you know. But that's not a resource, that's not a mindset that's in the educational system. So
Unfortunately, yeah.
yeah,
All right. On that note, we do need to go to a commercial break, so we're going to be back
absolutely
in just a moment.
right.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who are watching us live, I just want to say welcome. It is so good to have you here. But as I mentioned, it is commercial time, so we'll be back right after these messages.
Are you someone who is struggling to move forward because you suffered a loss? Maybe you're even finding it difficult to complete the most basic tasks. Are you looking for a way to start enjoying life again without feeling guilty or the resistance to do so? Spiritual life coach Sarah Stockham saw a need for people who haven't learned how to grieve without putting their entire lives on pause. And so she created a program that solves this issue called Choosing Life Right Now. This program is simple and you can do it on your own. If you are ready to learn how to feel your grief while still being able to smile, to honor the sacredness of what took place as a loss, and yet still continue to live with joy, and if you'd like to take care of your whole being with grace and love, then I'd like to invite you to experience her new program called Choosing Life Right Now. Sarah is currently offering her program for the promotional price of $77, but it won't stay at this price for long. To learn more, check out her website. The address is on the screen.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's just bring our guest right back. Raj, welcome back to the show. I just want to get right back into it because this is so much fun.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julie. It's been great so far. Thank you.
Something that I wanted to mention that we didn't get to before the commercial break is you have a book. So can you explain? I know we can get it on Amazon, but why don't you tell us about it?
Absolutely. So the book, which you can see here, it's How Squats Can Change Your Life. And and it's all about an experiment I did many years ago. I used to be, like everybody else, I used to get colds and flus and, the same run-of-the-mill kind of bodily aches and pains that most people got. And one day I was studying some comic books, as you do. Because I think, everybody will come to this point. I don't want to go too far on a tangent, but when you see some stories of people, in comic books, and you think, why do people love superhero films so much? Why do they go out in droves in their millions and even billions to go and watch these, right? Because there's something which everybody knows that they have, that they can relate to in terms of this superpower. They know it deep down. Everybody knows they have something of this. If it was completely unrelatable, they wouldn't go out in droves and go watch these films, right? They believe, they have something of a hero inside them. And when I was reading comic books or watching superhero films, even as a kid, I remember the first Superman film many years ago. Christopher Reeves and everything. So, I started to think about, okay, well, this is not taught in school, but what can I do to make myself stronger or build my immune system? What can I do? So I experimented with some workouts and different things. I went to the gym a lot, went with colleagues. We, competed as alpha males do in the gym, when they're in their 20s and full-blooded testosterone guys, trying to out-compete each other on the bench press, on the deadlift and everything. And what I found out of all those exercises, the squat was the most demanding definitely on my body. And when I asked my colleagues to do it, they also said the same thing, that out of the deadlift, the bench press and the squat was number one, the most demanding exercise that you could stress it, you could put your body under. So with that knowledge, I started to experiment with squats, weighted squats, with a barbell, and then bodyweight squats in different reps, different sets, different, I do 100 squats in, 5 minutes and see what happened. Yeah. And I'd slow it down and do 1 rep of 1 squat in 2 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That would be really hard.
Exactly. So when you slow it down, you build different muscle fibers in your legs, and you also condition your heart and lungs to become very well trained, in different ways. So what I found was that when I did squats, my illnesses, colds and flus, started to disappear. Yeah, and I didn't experience the same. We usually have flu season in October in the UK, and I used to get the flu really bad.
Ugh,
yeah,
that's unpleasant.
It is. For me, my nose would start running and my throat would get dry, and then my ears would get bunged up for like almost 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, horrible. And my family knew it. They said, "Oh, okay, if Raj has a cold, then he's going to be out of action for 2 weeks. Don't ask him to do anything. He's going to be an invalid, right?" Yeah, not pretty at all. But what I found is that with squats, and just squats alone, nothing else, 5-minute workouts with just squats, in doing sets of 12, 3 sets of 12, something like that, just body weight squats, I noticed my immune system started to get stronger. When everybody was falling ill with colds and flus and getting flu jabs and everything, I started not to need them.
Wow.
Yeah, at all. So I didn't get headaches that much, but those were eliminated. Digestive problems were eliminated. Back pain was eliminated. All other manner of things just disappeared. And so I was thinking, well, if everybody did squats, that means they would also get the similar kind of result, right? It's anatomy, it's physiology. I'm no one special. I'm just a human being like everybody else, right? So that's why I wrote this book, How Squats Can Change Your Life. And it's got a foreword in there by a WWE wrestler called Rob Van Dam, who's on the Hall of Fame of WWE.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
It is. And the reason why he wrote the foreword is because he said, Raj, you're right. Squats has been the #1 exercise for me in terms of developing strength, stamina, cardiovascular capacity, and my ability to stay pain-free for all these 25 years of wrestling.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I like the idea too of the thing with exercise in particular. So we're going to talk squats because that's what we're talking about. Is being able to do that 1 squat for 2 entire minutes not only affects your body but your brain too. I just love the added bonuses of everything. Like I do a lot with my older clients. I'll do a lot of balance work because that's something that they need to work on. And, the added bonus is that they're working their brain in a different way as well. So not only do they get the physical benefits, but right up there.
Absolutely. I'll ask you a fun question, Julie, if I may.
Of course.
Yeah, this is a little bit outside of the box, but I think it's a wonderful way to kind of broaden people's mindsets. So I ask a lot of interns who join Keep Fit Kingdom this question because I know they're under the same syllabus and system as the whole rest of the world. So I like to challenge them a little bit. So when we say the brain gets benefit from doing exercise and the cardiovascular and the endorphin release of dopamine and all those things are fantastic, but where is the role of the mind in all of this? Like, are we talking about the brain or the mind? What is the difference between the two?
Ooh, I love that question. For me, there is definitely a difference. The mind is more like the brain to me is just the function of things, just like the actual function, the chemistry and all that. And the mind, it has part of the soul in it. So to me, there's that difference. But for me, I don't like, how would exercise affect the mind? For me, it would build self-confidence and trust in myself because I'm keeping a commitment and,
Mhm.
maybe pushing my physical body past limits that I thought I had.
Oh, that's exactly the operative word, that you thought you had.
Yeah, I thought I had, because, and that's why I love working with like a trainer, because I'm a personal trainer, but I love working with a trainer because I don't push myself as hard as they do, and they can see how much I can do more than I can. So yeah,
Yeah,
I love that.
that's great. You're absolutely right. And I think nowadays, because the difference between the mind and the brain is not discussed in school,
It's really
right?
another thing that should be.
Absolutely. Because actually, if you think about it, the mind, I mean, I know this is going a little bit out of
Not for me, but maybe for some people. So let's keep going.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And this is really important. People need to take back their own power.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has to understand, whether you learn it from school or you don't, or you learn it from somewhere, everybody has to know that they are potentially infinite in their power.
Yes.
And there is no question or doubt about that. And why this isn't kind of introduced early on to kids, where it really matters for them to imbibe that thought and compound the right thoughts, as we talked about earlier, is beyond me.
Yeah.
It has to be taught. So the society will improve when the generation are taught the right things at the early age.
I just feel compelled to share this with you because I think you'll appreciate it. I went to school for art history as well when I was younger, because I did study art before I went into sciences. And then recently I had a spiritual mentor. Let's just call him a spiritual mentor. Anyway, he was always talking about how the mind isn't kept in the brain. The mind is actually like, it's goes like around the head, outside of the head. And that's why sometimes we know what other people are thinking and things like that. But bringing it back to the art pieces, he's like, that's why they drew those halos in the early art, that they were drawing the mind.
Wow.
I thought that was a really fascinating way to look at things, because that to me makes sense. That's why, you can feel when somebody, you can feel other people's energy. You can feel all that thing, all those things. It's like, that's what that is. I just thought that was a really kind of cool way to look at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if people nowadays, you can actually get, aura photography done. Where,
Yes, it's amazing.
It is, and people have to say, well, hang on, it can't just be woo-woo and just, from the 60s kind of airy-fairy conjecture. Hang on, this is real. This is electromagnetic science we're talking about here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that if you ever went to an aura photographer, or one of those aura photography booths that you can get, from those mind, body, spirit shows or wherever. I'm sure Tony Robbins has his own one at home. But
probably.
If you ever happen to watch this, you got to share this stuff. So, if you didn't have this electromagnetic protection around you, you wouldn't exist.
Exactly.
You'd be dead.
Exactly.
So, I think people become more aware that they are a walking, talking, electromagnetic being walking around, and with all this energy interchange between themselves and others and animals and plants and everything. I think that would be helpful for them to know.
Well, also, if we're all one and we're all connected, and like things, hard objects aren't really hard objects, then I mean, it's a lot for us to maybe accept, but that doesn't make it any less true.
Exactly.
And I read in this book recently by Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God. Yeah, he wrote all that whole series, and the book that I'm referencing now that he wrote is Happier Than God. And he said something to the effect of, that we live in, and this is interesting, but he said that we live in and this isn't new, but it's kind of like an illusion. Everything is an illusion. And he goes, but that doesn't mean that what you're seeing isn't there. And I thought that that was a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
Because it's an illusion, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So
Right.
like,
Wow.
oh, I think my brain can wrap around that one. That one's pretty far out there, but yeah, it's quantum physics. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, as far as we, go into those wider aspects of the human being, human consciousness, we can also bring it back. Like, I love having these debates with people, whether you're, agnostic or whatever you believe.
Mhm.
Everybody is at a certain level of understanding according to, their own self-willed desire to learn, right?
Mhm.
If you desire to learn and you really cultivate a desire to learn, your cup suddenly it becomes big and you can accept a lot more. But
Mhm.
a person who's not willing to learn or is not interested in learning or isn't so self-aware, the cup is going to be remaining at its current size or even shrink.
Yeah.
So there's no new knowledge coming in.
I love that analogy. I think that's a really fun way to put it so that, it's not insulting. It's just is what it is. If there's not space for it, it can't fit in there. So
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Exactly.
love that.
Yeah.
So just bringing it right back to this again, I just want to make sure that people can reach out to you. So keepfitkingdom.com is a good way to find all the things, correct?
Yeah, I mean, keepfitkingdom.com, they'll find there's over 1,600 articles on there.
It's amazing.
Yeah, with everything to do with motivation, because as mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
just knowing about fitness doesn't make you do it.
No, usually it doesn't
Right?
matter.
Yeah. Like Stephen Covey had a great phrase, the author of the very famous book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He said, just because you have a book and you haven't read it, it's almost like you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah, you can have,
so
there's a difference between knowledge and implementation.
totally, totally. And the implementation, the execution, or the action is where everything happens, where everything is, makes sense, where everything has context. So I think we bring it back down to practical step-by-step methods on
Mm-hmm.
Keep Fit Kingdom. So whether they want to look up how to build muscle, how to lose weight, what kind of supplementation they might want to try,
Mm-hmm.
going the holistic route and not relying on doctors, not relying on medications, and that
Yeah.
we've got lots of studies that have helped people become more autonomous.
I love that. I
And
love
learn how.
that. I don't, that's the name of the show. Own your wellness. Own
There you go.
it.
Perfect. Perfect.
Exactly. And that's why I love having you here because, I just like the idea of empowering people to, feel like they can make these choices for themselves without being, stuck in the decision mode where do I, don't I? And, saying like, okay, does this actually work for me? And something that I want to point out that I think is brilliant about you is that you use yourself as an experimental tool.
A guinea pig, literally.
And I think that most people should actually. I went to a training with Jack Canfield, and who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, the original ones. And something that he said is like to do 30 suggested is to do 30-day experiments on yourself to see if it works for you.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
like maybe eating raw is not for you, but try it for 30 days.
Yeah.
See, just give it
Exactly.
a chance, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. If it doesn't work, you can always revert back and try something else later.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be this all or nothing thinking. So, yeah, I love that idea. I just think that part of, one of the biggest things about health and wellness is your relationship with yourself, but also with other people, because we don't live on an island by ourselves. You know, we have to interact with people all of the time. So the work that you're doing and how you're helping people is absolutely amazing. I just wanted to congratulate you and, oh my goodness, your clients. Hello. That's exciting. It's not always easy to ask for help, but it's always worth it.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, just to help, to help people, if they want to find out more, they can go to keepfitkingdom.com. They can go to at keepfitkingdom on Twitter.
On Twitter.
That's the place. Yeah. They can also find the book if they're interested on, how squats can change your life on Amazon.com and all the other Amazon places. And also the experiment that we talked about in terms of the alternate nostril breathing, where people can actually try this for themselves for 7 days and give us feedback, and our team will actually give them more tailored feedback and how they can improve things based on their own individual experience and their own individual results.
I love that. I think that's amazing. So speaking of like the nose, the alternate breathing, nostril breathing, what about if you have like a cold? What should you do? Like a different kind of breathing, or?
Well, Julie, I think for your listeners and your viewers, I think I want to share something which is very special, which we don't talk about this a lot, but it has to happen at some point. Right. We intersect with doctors from the NHS, the National Health Service, and doctors in America. We've interviewed Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor, who was a great neuroscientist in America. She was on the Oprah Winfrey Show and TED Talks and all kinds of things.
Wow.
And Dr. Jeff Rediger, who's the author of the book Cured.
I know that book. Yeah.
Yeah. So he did extensive studies, spanning 30 years. He went to Brazil, found some unusual healing modalities and doctors who did things very differently to what the West has usually been taught. So I think we need to distill all this knowledge down into a few basic steps that anyone can follow. So I'm going to reveal a few insights now. Right, it's kind of I haven't done it widespread yet, but I want to share it with you because you're on that wavelength, and your viewers and your listeners, I think it's time for them to hear this. Right.
All right, ready.
Right. So the breath, what people think of as the breath, is not just breath. It's not just oxygen. Okay, what we've been taught in school is that air, all this stuff we see around us, is just 21% oxygen, nitrogen, and so on and so on. But actually, that's a very basic idea. The truth is that breath is 3 things.
Okay.
And this is gonna, you're gonna have to kind of stick with me here and just, as I said, you can try it on that breathing experiment so people can realize it for themselves. So breath is light, it's electricity, and it's magnetism.
Okay.
Now, when you imbibe this light, electricity, and magnetism into yourself, you realize that you are not just a flesh and blood biological being.
I love that. Actually, you and I have to talk about somebody after this, but this is exciting to me. I'm on board.
Yeah. And I want to tell people that as much as, we love working with the health sectors and different, coaches and people like Oprah Winfrey, if you look at her career, she's very consistent in her message. Right? She has been a follower of people like Wayne Dyer and people like that for years and years and years. Yeah, Deepak Chopra. And they've been preaching the same thing since the beginning, right? But why do some people take it on board and others don't? Why are some people apathetic where others are like, they're really excited? Like, why is that? So what I think that, yourself and myself and other people who are having these kind of conversations need to repeatedly tell people, look, you have an infinite reservoir of oceanic power all around you constantly. Please use it.
Wow.
It's yours and it's free, and it doesn't depend on any human's opinion.
That's beautiful. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. I feel that, I receive that, because yeah, it's just, you can always break things down into elements, but that doesn't mean that that's really, it captures what it is.
Exactly.
Amazing.
There are more insights, Julie, like this. I know I don't want to give too much, because it can be very, very shocking for people to realize these things.
It can be, but also, at what point, I mean, you have to share at some point, because the world isn't flat any longer. So,
It's multi-dimensional.
Yeah. But anyway, that is basically all the time that we have for today.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? It's gone by so quickly.
Absolutely. It's
So
been
I just
great.
want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Julie. It's been, wonderful sharing all these ideas, and I hope your listeners and viewers will try these things out for themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Bye. And as I mentioned, that is all the time we have. What a beautiful note to end things on. We'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy the rest of your week.